everybody. Hi, loves. How are you? My hair always gets super messy. Today, I'm going to be talking about feminine versus masculine energy or consciousness. And hey, Jason. Thanks for joining. Hey, William. Hi, everybody. I'm so glad you guys are joining me today. So, this topic is very important to me because, a lot of people have their opinions about, dating and relationships, who should approach who should do what. Are we still in the old days with gender roles, et cetera, et cetera? There's so many questions around this topic. And this will probably be a long video because there's so much information that goes into this, but I'll do my best to mostly focus on feminine energy and consciousness versus masculine energy and consciousness. And again, I was inspired to do this video when someone was, somewhat arguing with me on Facebook about having women approaching men. And he was very adamant about saying that women should approach men. And I said, well, what you're asking for is a woman that's more strongly in her masculine. And that's okay. If you want to be in your feminine, then it is more synergistic for you to have a woman in her masculine. So, I'll be talking about, relationship synergies and, how we intertwine together, what works well together in a relationship. And if you guys have questions specifically about this topic, let me know. So I'm going to pin this. Hold on just a second. So masculine versus feminine energy. Okay, I'm gonna pin that if it lets me. I'm doing this on Instagram as well as YouTube. Okay. So a lot of people have a misunderstanding about feminine versus masculine energy. A lot of people don't really understand that you can be a man with a feminine mind, and you can be a woman with a masculine mind. And there's nothing wrong with either of these. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that I say that now. There's nothing wrong with being masculine or feminine. There's nothing wrong with being a man that is in his feminine. There's nothing wrong with being a woman that's in her masculine. However, it is best to be balanced because there are pros and there are cons to both. A man is strong in certain areas in his masculine energy, where a woman may be weaker in that area, and same goes the other way around. So there are several different kind of concepts I want to talk about, and feel free, again, if you guys have questions about this specific topic, you can jump in. I'll do my best to answer, especially at the end, but right now I'm kind of going to be in a flow, okay? So I want to start at the very beginning. In the very beginning, we are conceived the same way. And we're at the very beginning of the pregnancy. We're in our mother's bodies pretty similarly. And at the most, basic state, basic is not the right word, but the most natural and organic state, we have a female energy brain. What I mean by that is that the brain is very in tune with emotions. and that's in its organic and natural state. So there are some major differences that happen in pregnancy that make us different. What happens is the female body basically injects the baby with testosterone if it's going to be a boy. What does that do? Well, it's really interesting what it does. So there is, you know what, let me get some more light in here, I'm sorry. Okay, the sun is going down, needed more light. Okay, so what does that do? It's really kind of cool, actually, what the testosterone does on a very physiological level. It basically severs the corpus callosum, and the corpus callosum is what bridges the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So, on a very scientific level, we are completely different from each other in our brain. So when the corpus callosum is severed, that means that this different brain can focus on one side of the brain and then the other side of the brain better than the female brain that can jump back and forth faster. Of course, there's disadvantages as well, but that's an advantage. And another injection of testosterone happens in puberty. And this creates the adult masculine mind, which is why in puberty, hormones start to go a little crazy and, you know, men get a little horny and they, you know, change. You know, when they're a child, they're more in touch with their feminine side and naturally cry easier, etc. And then when they get the second dose of testosterone, they're a bit more detached from emotions because of testosterone. So this is on a very scientific level. So we are different from each other. And then of course the opposite, you know, females get we get boosts of estrogen, which is the female hormone, which makes us different in so many ways. But one of the many ways is it makes us emotional. And so therefore, we are completely different in our brains. So men can be amazing at focusing on one task at a time, and females can be amazing at multitasking because we still have our corpus callosum intact. So we have the ability to jump back and forth. We also have more estrogen, therefore it makes us more emotional. Testosterone is detaching from emotions. Okay, so those are some really basic, like real basic 101. I could get more advanced, but I really want to focus more on the energetics and the consciousness versus just the physical differences. I do a lot of focusing on physical differences in my 1 hour online course. I have that in my link in my bio on YouTube. I have that in my description. So 6 main points I want to talk about. The first is masculine and feminine energy is similar to arrow energy and cup energy. So arrow energy is just like a bow and arrow. An arrow is penetrating. And I think a really great way on a spiritual, energetic way to think about this is sex. So the masculine penetrates. So that's a spiritual thing. Sex is very spiritual. A masculine energy goes out in the world and fucks it. Conquers and competes, takes what's theirs. Very masculine energy. It's like a go-getter. Hunt, just like a bow and arrow. That's why they call it arrow. A cup energy, which is feminine energy, is receiving energy. And I guess if you can think about it in a sexual way, it's a receiving sexual state as well. And it's becoming submissive to life. Not submissive isn't the right way, but it's opening up to receiving life. So that is a very basic energetic difference. Arrow versus cup. Okay? Next, I want to talk about focus, which is completely different for men and women. We have central focus for men, and we have spreading focus for women. So central focus is, and there's a lot of different terms, so I'm just using some terms that hopefully are more basic and can help you understand. A central focus is what I was just explaining to you about the corpus callosum being severed. Then men can just focus on one side of the brain. They can just focus. And they're really good at focusing. And it's amazing for working. It's amazing for producing. It's amazing for building. Those are huge strengths that men have. And women have spreading consciousness or spreading energy. And spreading is they have the ability to multitask. And sometimes men will watch a woman and just doesn't know how she does it, but she can be talking on the phone, doing dishes, and sending an email all at the same time, because we have the ability to jump back and forth really quickly in our brains, and men do not. So a mistake women make sometimes is, let's say a man is sending an email out. He is really good at focusing on that email. So woman may not think about that because we're good at multitasking. So she may interrupt him and say, "Hey babe, can you help me with the dishes?" Or "Can you talk to me about something?" Whatever it may be. He might get really frustrated because it's difficult for him to just switch sides of the brains, and women have no problem. So women assume that men have similar brain activity, and men assume women have similar brain activity, which is a mistake we commonly make. And this consciousness, this spreading consciousness, is also women can have a similar deep love for kids as they do their husbands and friends. They can spread their love out really well, and a man kind of has to focus on one at a time. So I hope that helps you understand that energetic. And then there's doing versus being energies. So doing is masculine energy. Doing, getting stuff done, to-do list, that's all very masculine energy. So I'm not saying that it's just men that have this. We all have both feminine and masculine qualities in us. However, it is a masculine energy to do. I hope that makes sense. So doing, right now, you are doing something. You're writing a comment. That's doing something. Okay? And feminine energy would just be sitting back and watching this live stream. So it's just an energy. Again, we all have both feminine and masculine energies in us. And with certain activities that we do or certain things that we do, one energy is stronger than the other. And as a man, sometimes you will be more in your feminine energy than you are in your masculine, which is a good thing in certain scenarios versus the other way around, woman being in her masculine. So I'm in my masculine when I post this and write a description on YouTube, because I'm doing. I hope that makes sense. So it's good for people to have a balanced doing versus being mindset, mentality, and consciousness. Because if you're just doing, we'll experience a lot of burnout, especially women, because we're in our masculine, which is a lot more uncomfortable for us because it releases more testosterone, which does not make us happy. And testosterone makes men happy. So doing and tackling things on their to-do list feels pretty good because it releases more testosterone, and that makes you feel good because that's your hormone that gives you a high. The hormone that gives women a high is estrogen. So estrogen is being energy. So being can be, again, like I said, watching this live stream. Being can be meditating. And again, it's not just women should meditate and men shouldn't. It's being in your feminine, which feels good because you're getting in touch with your emotions, you're getting in touch with more of the natural state of your brain and not the, boosted with testosterone brain, which is, and I thought this was really interesting, but there is, it's a saying that I think autism is the right saying. So an autistic brain is the most masculine brain. So a man's brain is a female brain with a little bit of autism. And I'll explain that. Autism is logic on steroids. So men are very logical. That is how you guys are created. Once the corpus callosum is severed in your brain, you become hyper logical. You become more detached from emotions naturally. And that makes you more autistic, right? Hypermasculinity is autism. Now, autism, when someone has autism, they're extremely intelligent. Most of the time, they're extremely intelligent. They can be incredible math geniuses, scientific wizards. They'll win all sorts of awards, but have absolutely no social skills at all. Because they're hyper masculine, hyper logical, which is autistic. So that's a fun fact for you. A masculine brain is more autistic than a feminine brain, and it's not derogatory. It's just what autism is. Autism is just hyper logical masculinity brain. Fascinating, right? So if you have an autistic kid, it's not a problem. I'm not saying that it's, bad. They could be geniuses if you help them to really utilize their gifts and talents. But it would be probably good for you to teach them pragmatic relationship skills and connection skills, because they're just clueless. They're absolutely clueless because they're the most detached from emotions. They're not going to understand. So you have to teach them emotions logically. You have to say A plus B equals C, which is emotions. However you want to explain it, but you have to explain it in a building block way. And then they'll be like, oh, okay, I get it. If you say, you look fat in that dress, ma'am, to a lady, and you're saying this to an autistic person, if you say you look fat in that dress, that will make her upset. So you have to talk logically. You can't say that hurt her feelings and made her feel some type, that won't compute. It's all logic. So yeah, really fascinating how a masculine brain is a little more autistic. So doing versus being, and then and the other one, I think this is number 4, is providing versus receiving energy and consciousness. So men, and this is just natural, again, on a physiological level, and energetic and conscious level, are providers. And it feels good and it boosts their testosterone to provide. It boosts the good feeling hormone in them to provide to their family, any loved ones, friends, anyone that they consider that they cherish, anyone they cherish. to provide. And there's a lot of men that don't really understand this because women have fought for equality and they wanted the choice to work, and things got a little messed up in this area, which maybe I can touch on after I'm done talking about these 6 points. And so, women sometimes make as much money or maybe sometimes more, and that's okay. And because it's an energetic thing for men to want to provide, it makes them feel some type of way, and they don't want to admit it. They don't want to say it out loud. Because then they would be looked down upon. It's not socially acceptable. So, if you can't provide money or provide financially for your family, then you can provide emotionally, because that has become something that females need now more than ever, because going to work and being in the workplace is very masculine energy. So females are getting more burnt out and are actually more stressed out than ever before. They have 50% higher cortisol in the workplace than men do. So when they get home, they need doses and doses and doses of dopamine to get the cortisol out of their system. And what helps with dopamine? Connection, love, romance. So with connection, love, and romance, a man can provide a lot for a woman. So again, it's not just financial providing, but providing is a masculine energy. Receiving is feminine energy. So again, you can see there are times where you can be in your feminine and receive, such as someone giving you a compliment. It's a feminine energy to receive a compliment. And it's not passive either, because it can be work to have enough self-worth to receive. I remember a long time ago, I was way too heavy in my masculine and I was a lot more unhappy. But we're taught, this is a very patriarchal country, and masculine energy is more celebrated. So I was taught and made to feel that being more prominent in my masculine energy was more socially acceptable. But I was more burnt out and I was not as happy. But I didn't know this. I was unconscious of all of it. And if you have women approaching you at the bar and doing masculine crap, they're unconscious of what's going on energetically. And they're unconscious that they're doing the fucking, basically. They're unconscious that they're probably a little more burnt out. They're unconscious that they'll have more relationship and synergistic issues in relationships. So way back then, when I was more in my masculine energy, I lost my train of thought. But when I was in my masculine energy, I had lower self-worth, and I wasn't as good at receiving. People would offer me gifts or, compliments, whatever it may be, and I wasn't sure how to receive it. So I would get really uncomfortable, like, oh, yeah, I don't agree with you, or, oh, I'm not that pretty, or, whatever it was. But then men felt some type of way. They would think that all women maybe are really terrible at receiving compliments, but it's not. It's young ladies that are too much in their masculine, that have low self-worth, and they don't know how to receive. So receiving is, again, like I said, it's not passive. It requires some self-worth work. If you already have good self-worth, that means you had amazing parents that showed you unconditional love since the day you were born. You're lucky, you're blessed. But not all of us had that. Some of us had parents that loved us, but then didn't show us very well that they loved us. So our self-worth is off, therefore our receiving energy is off, therefore our feminine energy is off, therefore we're more in our masculine. And that doesn't make the best energetic relationship when you're too much in your masculine as a woman, unless you want a man that's in his feminine, then it's good. Then I'll get to that again. So the next one is creating energy versus producing energy. And creative energy is feminine energy, and producing energy is masculine energy. So what's the difference? Well, me being here doing this video right now and talking to you is a creation. I'm creating this content. I'm creating this knowledge for you. I'm creating an art piece, whatever you may want to call it. It's a creation. So the producing part of it, the production part of it, is when at that point when I hit save and end, and then have to post on other things, post in my IGTV or promote it or marketing, that kind of stuff. That's the masculine energy. So, and I said, a minute ago, I used to be more in my masculine. Now I'm a lot heavier in my feminine. I'm a lot happier to be in my feminine because it's balanced in my system naturally, because estrogen makes females happy, just like testosterone makes men happy. Unhappy men typically have more estrogen in their bodies, by the way. And men that have tempers have more estrogen in their body. So when you're having a temper and you're being angry, you're being a bitch. Okay, so creating energy versus producing energy. Creative energy versus producing. And then, another example, like on a spiritual level, women we create life, like a baby being created inside of us. We create it. And it's not, again, 100% passive, because there are things being done. Our body is doing work. We're having to remain in an emotionally clear and healthy state of mind, and our body has to be healthy in order for that child to be healthy. Therefore, it's not passive, but it's more spiritual work. The producing is more 3D matrix of this world kind of work, like computers and all that kind of stuff. So creation versus production. And the last one is the experience energy or consciousness versus orientation or goal orientation energy. So experience versus goals. What do I mean by that? Well, feminine energy is an experience energy. So feminine energy wants to experience things, wants to experience life, wants to experience a good meditation, wants to experience the flow of yoga, wants to experience amazing and sensual sex, wants to experience just life in general. Whereas masculine energy is goal-oriented energy. So set goals. And it's interesting, when men set and hit goals, guess what it does? It releases testosterone, which makes men feel good. It's like high. It's like, ooh, that feels good. Yeah. That's masculine energy. So if you were to tell a woman, why aren't you more goal-oriented? It's like telling a cat, why aren't you like a dog? Hey cat, why won't you fetch that stick? And again, there's a balance in this world, right? If a woman chooses to be a working woman, it is good to have some goals in the workplace. It is good for there to be goals in her private life as well. But to call it goals kind of goes against the natural feminine flow, the spiritual flow of the feminine. So using the word goal with a woman isn't probably that practical, unless she's very masculine, which is fine. She hasn't hit her burnout yet. So using the word desire, for someone that's in their feminine energy, or someone that's maybe even a man. You can use the word desire for a man, especially if he's kind of burnt out. Because sometimes men get burnt out as well. They get burnt out for different reasons than women can. But the word desire just feels better if you're wanting to create, which again is feminine. If you're wanting to produce, goal is a better word, right? Because those are both masculine words. So I hope that helps breaking down, desire setting versus goal setting, and different energetics. And this is all on an energy level, which is spiritual, which is consciousness. So again, you can have a feminine mind and a male body, a masculine body, and the other way around, vice versa. So this is some interesting stuff, and I got a lot of my information from tons of books, Psychology Today, articles, my psychology classes in college, my communication classes in college, my gender communication classes in college. I could list other sources. I don't have the complete breakdown of books. One of my favorite books for masculine versus feminine when it comes to hormones is Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. That one, if you guys haven't read that, that is just a game changer, because it gives you such practical information on why your relationship is not working, or why your relationship skills suck, or or why you just can't get along with the opposite sex. And I find a lot of this stuff to be so fascinating. I actually think it's one of the most fascinating things being a human, because we're quite literally opposite, men and women, right? But somehow put together, we do really good, and we're the best team, because where men have strengths, women may have weaknesses, and vice versa. Or someone's in their masculine, the other's in their feminine, vice versa. So let's talk about approaching a woman. Now that you have all this information on what is masculine energy versus what is female energy, and the best way to think about it, and the easiest way to think about it, is sex. That's the best way to think about it, because a man penetrates. A man fucks, right? So as a woman, kind of picture what it's like to be the penetrator, to fuck. Like, how does that feel? Why would you judge a man for something he is on an energetic level? And with a man, maybe envision, like really try to put yourself in the feminine and imagine getting fucked. And I know that's uncomfortable, and I know some people really detest that visualization, but it really, really, really helps for you to think about the opposite sex and how they may feel, so you can get along with them. Now, just because you may have a very masculine man and feminine woman doesn't mean you convert each other. I have a very masculine partner, and I don't convert him to be a female. And I'm a very feminine female. Used to be masculine, feminine. And now I'm in my feminine, which is more synergistic in a relationship. And I can talk about that in one video alone, because that's such a long topic. But he doesn't try to convert me to be a man and to be masculine. We don't convert each other. Instead, what we do is we understand each other, and we appreciate each other's differences. So then if there's an argument, it's like, oh, you did that because you were emotional. Oh, okay. And then, to the man, oh, you did that because you were just thinking logically and were completely detached from your emotions. Or, oh, you got irritated because I started talking to you while you're editing a video. And I didn't think about that because I'm a woman, and I'd be able to just multitask like edit and like, yeah, babe, what's up? No, you can't do that. I forgot. My bad. But because I have the knowledge, and he has the knowledge as well, mostly because I help him understand, and other women have a really difficult time understanding themselves because they haven't done this research, so they don't really know how to articulate that they're being in their feminine. And when a man says you're being crazy, the easiest thing to say is, well, that's sexist. Yeah, it is kind of sexist, but it's really, really important for you to be educated so you can hit them with logic, because men need the logic. And you can say, you know what? I'm not crazy. I'm a woman. And it's 3 days before my period. And you know what's happening to my hormones right now? They're going all over the place. What if you were injected with a ton of estrogen right now? How would you feel? You would feel pretty fucking psycho. You would probably you'd probably feel very crazy. And estrogen, like especially like right before our period, sometimes it makes us see and feel the worst in everything. It's kind of like getting injected with truth serum. We have no holds back. Like we say everything that's been bugging us all month. We're like, and this and that, and you're doing this wrong and that wrong. And a man wouldn't understand that. So you have to break it down to him. Maybe send him a chart. Hey, like, look at these days. Avoid me on those days. When you want to talk depth, avoid those days. Maybe on those days, do your best to act right. You know, so it's important to have those, just to be armored with education. And as a man, when you understand female emotions, you understand the female brain, then you're going to have a lot more understanding for how and why she's reacting to certain things. How or why she wants you to be a provider. She's wanting you to be in your masculine energy because it's more synergistic with her feminine energy. So she can relax into her feminine. So she can be happier, she can be less stressed. So having more compassion and understanding for your partner is a game changer. And feminine and masculine energy is real. So, if you want someone to approach you at the bar, you're wanting someone in their masculine to approach you. And you can be a man or a woman. But just know that you are in your feminine if you're wanting people to approach you. So therefore, you're going to be attracting someone dominantly in their masculine. And this is advice for both men and women. Think about that. As a woman, do you want a masculine man or do you want a feminine man? Do you want a man that can balance both? Do you want a man that's masculine in the world and then can drop into his feminine when you want to speak to him about really deep things? Great. But if he's going to be masculine in the world, he still needs to approach you. He still needs to have that arrow energy. Because if he's going to be feminine in the world, maybe he's the opposite at home. Like, you don't know. But it's obvious that someone's in their dominant energy when they're approaching you. That's dominant masculinity. Dominant masculine energy. So, you can take a test. Tony Robbins has a test. You can message me if you want the link. I have the link somewhere. But he has a test where it's like a quiz and it asks several questions. Are you dominantly in your masculine or feminine? And it will tell you if you're in your masculine or feminine. And, if you like that, then great. Then, synergistically speaking, you would do best with someone that's dominant in the opposite. Because that's just how good relationships work. If people are too far in their masculine, two people too far in their masculine, think about what will happen. It's both penetrating energies, both dominating energies, both competitive energies. You guys will probably get into power battles and piss fights and all sorts of masculine stuff that You can save that for your boys. If you're both too much in your feminine, nothing will get done. So synergy is important. A synergistic relationship is important. It requires more work because it requires more understanding and education and communication. However, it works the best for synergistic relationships. So I hope that makes sense for you. I hope that I answered any questions you might have. And now I'm going to, thank you, Gross. I'm glad it made sense. Let me scroll and see if there's any questions. Hi, Luis, Gamma, hi. Ask Hamid, hi. How come energy? Energy is everything. We're all made up of energy. Someone was laughing. Zoo is whatever was laughing. Okay. Hi, SKK. Hi, Prentice. So good to see you as usual. Jaws. I don't know what that means. Is that a different language? Is this Daco whatever? Hello, Sandesh. El Machito. Hey there, buddy. Hi, Mr. Frank. So beautiful. Thank you, Canito. I love you. Okay, thank you, Canito. Renee, hi. Renezi, hello. Wag, thank you. Hi, Azad. Which is your favorite color? Purple. You know, and there's a color thing too. So sometimes there's stereotypes, like when a baby's born, people get pink for girls and blue for boys, but there's actually something to stereotypes. So if you hand a kid, a girl, let's say a little girl, if you hand her, if she doesn't know anything about girls versus boys, if you just hand her like a pink blanket and a blue blanket and you let her decide on her own, the way her brain is wired, she actually naturally is more attracted to the pink one. So yeah, there's stereotypes, but sometimes stereotypes are there because that's how our brains were wired. Mehed, hi, I'm good, how are you? Looking on, thank you, Wag. Hi, Swagger Scan. Oh, thanks for joining me. So women and men with masculine energy can coexist. That's a good topic. Okay, the path to peace. Both have masculine. Yes, everyone has both feminine and masculine energy. But if you're both hyper masculine, you're both hyper logical, it'll be a difficult relationship. You know, who's going to be nurturing for kids? Because hyper masculinity is more detached emotionally speaking and not as nurturing, so they're not as good with kids. So if let's pretend that, you know, some men are very sexist. They're like, oh, what are females good for? They're just so emotional. Like, who needs them? You need them. How were you born? How were you created? You needed a woman. And if you are going to be a normal adult with the least amount of issues as possible, that means your mother was loving. With your mother's love, you're a normal adult. So women need to be emotional. It's life or death. And if this world didn't have any emotions, we would be fucked, you guys. We would all just be fucked. We'd all just be killing each other and murder, and it would just be awful. Think about our hyper masculine days when we were all a lot more hyper masculine in the dark ages. Think about how much murder and killing and all that stuff. It was just sad. It's sad. McKill, woohoo. Exactly what I had been dwelling on and teaching myself about. That's awesome, Mikhail. I don't know how to say her name, I'm sorry. My wife has masculine energy I'd like to discuss sometime. That's typical because that's how society has taught us. You know, it's taught us that masculine energy is more celebrated because we get more stuff done, we're more successful money-wise, stuff like that. And feminine energy isn't as celebrated because it's it's forgotten. It's forgotten how important emotions are. It's forgotten how important your mother's love is as a child. You would be F-U-C-K-E-D, fucked, if you didn't have a nurturing feminine mother. You'd be fucked. And we forget like how important that is. So if she's too far in her masculine, she may hit a burnout eventually. You know, I hit a burnout a long time ago. I was still in my 20s when I hit my masculine burnout. I actually had to get attached to a trauma machine because I was just like super hyper in my masculine. Just do. Like OCD, get shit done, to-do lists. Yeah, go out and get it. Like goal-oriented, just super masculine. Like, and my adrenals were like, no more. And my adrenals burnt out, and I had to go to the doctor and get hooked up to this machine for trauma patients, like I guess professional athletes do. I was a wreck. So I had to learn how to become more feminine. And my relationships were a mess back then too. Like a long time ago, they were a mess because I would dominate. I would be masculine, and I would emasculate my men. Like, who wants that? It's not sexy, really. It's not. I mean, unless you want that. Some men want that, and that's okay. Cuckolds and whatever, like they seek that out, and that's cool. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying that most case scenario, you know, if I were to work with someone one-on-one, it'd be a completely different conversation. But most cases, men don't want women too far in their masculine. So you can have your wife, Joe Sill, you can have your wife talk to me. I can help her. Good morning, Angel. Thank you, Hovspo. Hi. Dinaja. Let's see. Dinaja Mosif. Trying to see if you guys have any other questions. I don't see any other questions. I see a lot of heart faces and hearts and highs and stuff. And thank you for that. I appreciate your support. So I think that's it. I think I answered the questions that you guys had now. Feel free to, in my YouTube, because I'm doing a YouTube live right now too. Feel free to please comment below if you have any questions you want me to answer in future YouTube videos. Same here. If you guys have any questions for future videos, please comment here, or send me a DM, and I'll do my best to answer your questions in a next video. I typically use topics that I get from people on social media to talk about in these live streams and my YouTube videos. But I also do separate live YouTube videos where I know it's just important in relationships and dating. Relationships and dating in 2019 has become completely different than pretty much ever before. And we need to be more educated on ourselves as well as others, as well as love, and understand, you know, basically how to adapt to the changes. And I'm here for you guys. Obviously, it's best one-on-one, but I do my best for free advice in these videos. Hit me up with questions. Thank you guys so much for joining. I appreciate you, and I love you. Mwah.